We also have waited for the remaining participants, but as far as the time is concerned, we are moving to, we are starting our webinar. So first of all, I would like to thank and welcome our respected chief guest, Dr. Mohammad Asif Sheikh, Principal and Director, IIRS, ISRA Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, ISRA University, Karachi. First of all, welcome, sir. After that, I would like to thank all the panelists and speakers which are responsible for organizing this webinar, making possible this webinar in such pandemic situation. And let's move on with this webinar team. So first of all, I would like to thank and our respected chief guest, Dr. Mohammad Asif Sheikh, Director, IIRS, the Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, ISRA University, Karachi. After that, our first panelist, our first speaker, Dr. Fahad Farooq Lafi, and Dr. Fahad Farooq is currently serving as the Executive Director at Clifford Institute, Karachi, Karachi Institute of Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation Sciences, Karachi. After that, we have a second panelist and instructor, Dr. Atul Hussain, and he is head of department, Dr. Plaza, Physiotherapy Department, Physiotherapy and Rehabilitation Department at Dr. Plaza. Finally, we have a third and last instructor, Dr. Naza Huzaifa. She is head of department at Karachi, and she is also yoga instructor at Ziauddin Hospital, Karachi. After that, coming to the organizer, this webinar is basically organized by the efforts of Dr. Vinod Kumar, and he is the Assistant Professor, IIRS, Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, ISRA University, Karachi. And last but not least, this is myself, Dr. Dilip Kumar, and I'm Senior Lecturer at NIPER, Karachi, and former CMC Central Manager. Let's start our webinar. I would like to request to our second panelist, Dr. Naza Huzaifa, and she will share her knowledge with the Boba technique and DP. I would like to call Dr. Naza Huzaifa. Now, Dr. Naza, it's over to you. Yeah. Dr. Vinod?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Vinod, kindly host कर दीजिएगा मुझे.
हेलो
हेलो यस सर जी सर बोले.
डॉक्टर विनोद, मेरी मीटिंग है. मैं चाहूँगा कि मैं अभी इसको अपना वेबिनार को ओपन करके फिर मैं जाना चाहूँगा ना.
ओके सर, ये ज़्यादा सही है.
Okay, okay.
Okay, all participants, I would like to introduce Dr. Mohammad Asif. He is the principal professor of ISRA Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, ISRA University, Karachi campus. And we would like to call Dr. Mohammad Asif that he talk some few words about our webinar. Dr. Asif, the mic is over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, everyone. In the name of Allah, the most beneficial and merciful, my name is Professor Dr. Mohammad Asif. I am the Principal and Director Research of ISRA Institute of Rehabilitation Sciences, ISRA University, Karachi campus. I am very pleased to have today as a chief guest for the opening of this webinar. It is especially my topic of interest, and I do believe after attending the webinar of cerebral palsy and its rehabilitation approaches, participants will get more conceptual knowledge and its applied approach. Today we are gathered here to attend this webinar on multidisciplinary approach toward the cerebral palsy by the lead academia and IIRS, KIPARS, and CMT, ECLIP. For this webinar, we have various prestigious personalities among us. I would like to pay thanks to the all respected clinicians and students, as well as the other faculty members of the different institutes, hospitals, and clinics. It is a great pleasure to have you all here. We all know that due to this pandemic, the education sector is suffering a lot, and still we have no idea that when we will be able to resume our previous schedule. Please keep in touch with us on social media and to continuously upgrade your knowledge and clinical skills. मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि आज का वेबिनार जो है आप लोगों को बहुत पसंद आएगा। और सीपी जो है वो हमारे यहाँ बड़ा निगलेक्टेड एरिया है और उसको समझा जाता है कि वो बिल्कुल ही मतलब ये कि सिर्फ ओटी का जॉब है, लेकिन रोल ऑफ फिजिकल थेरेपिस्ट जो है वो मेजर रोल जो है वो फिजिकल थेरेपिस्ट का है सेरेब्रल पाल्सी मैनेजमेंट के अंदर। तो दो एक्सपर्ट्स आपके साथ हैं, दोनों का बड़ा एक्सपीरियंस है। डॉक्टर नाजिया हुज़ैफा आपके साथ हैं, डॉक्टर फहद लासी आपके साथ हैं। तो ये मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि आज का जो वेबिनार है उसको अटेंड करने के बाद आपके जो कॉन्सेप्ट्स हैं ये उनमें काफ़ी बेहतरी आएगी और आप बहुत सारी नई चीज़ें लर्न करने को आपको मिलेंगी। तो डॉक्टर नाजिया हुज़ैफा, डॉक्टर फहद फारूक लासी, डॉक्टर दिलीप कुमार एंड डॉक्टर विनोद कुमार एंड लीड एकेडमिया सीईओ डॉक्टर आतिफ हुसैन, मैं आपका तमाम लोगों का बहुत शुक्रगुजार हूँ कि आपने एज ए चीफ गेस्ट मुझे इनवाइट किया। और उम्मीद करता हूँ इस तरह की एक्टिविटीज़ को आप यंगस्टर्स प्रमोट करते रहेंगे और जहाँ भी मेरी ज़रूरत हो मैं बिल्कुल हाजिर हूँ, जिस वक्त भी जाइए हो। समटाइम ऐसा होता है कि मीटिंग्स होती हैं, ये स्केजुअल से थोड़ा सा हट कर था कि ये प्रोग्राम 4 बजे होना था लेकिन 2 बजे आया, तो इस वजह से मैंने आपसे माजरत चाहिए कि मैं शुरू में ही बात करना चाहूँगा। इंशाल्लाह मैं ज़रूर ज्वाइन करूँगा। लास्ट वेबिनार मैंने कंप्लीट अटेंड किया था डॉक्टर फहद फारूक लासी का और डॉक्टर नाजिया हुज़ैफा का, और उसकी रिकॉर्डिंग भी सुनने को मिली है। तो आप लोगों से गुजारिश है कि अगर किसी का कोई हिस्सा मिस हो जाता है या कोई अपने इंटरनेट की प्रॉब्लम से अटेंड नहीं कर सकता है तो यूट्यूब चैनल के ऊपर इस वेबिनार के एंड के ऊपर ये रिकॉर्डिंग अवेलेबल होगी। ठीक है, तो आप तमाम लोगों का बहुत शुक्रिया। ओवर टू यू डॉक्टर विनोद। थैंक यू डॉक्टर दिलीप, डॉक्टर विनोद, अल्लाह हाफिज।
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohammad Asif, for such a kind words. And now I would like to call Dr. Nazia Huzafa for your webinar. So, ma'am, you can start your webinar. Dr. Nazia, can you hear me?
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon to everybody. Arias the call? Okay, good afternoon to everybody. This is Dr. Nazia Huzafa, Head of Physical Therapy Department at KELP Institute of Child Development. I am here to talk on a very important topic, that is BOPAT concepts and NDT, and for which I am thankful to the Chief Guest, Sir Asif Mohammed Sheikh, Leads Academia, and all the organizing team members for giving me this opportunity to talk on this topic. So let's start with the NDT, BOPAT concepts, neurodevelopmental technique. Okay. NDT, let me give you a brief history about BOPAT concept. This concept was developed by Dr. Carol Bobat, who was a neurophysiologist, and his wife, Dr. Barta Bobat, a physical therapist. They were the German refugees who went to UK in 1930s and worked extensively with children with cerebral palsy and stroke patients. They extended its services to other parts of the Europe, and then they took it to USA where it was called as NDT. Before that it was BOPAT concept, but then in USA it was named as neurodevelopmental technique. So before moving on to the real concept, I would like you to go through some questions to get me an idea what do you people think about BOPAT concept is. So Vinod, can we do the polling here?
Yes, ma'am. I will show the polls. Okay. Launch the poll. Yes. Okay, all participants, you have a poll on your screen. Okay, and for these polls, you have 10 minutes. 10 questions are there. Please answer and make sure that answer every participant, because we will not show the answer of any particular participants. Okay. तो अगर किसी को ये शर्म है कि मेरे आंसर गलत होंगे और नजर आएंगे, तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, आपका नाम नजर नहीं आएगा. You just have to answer to test your knowledge. Okay.
It's just to get an idea what you people think of this concept is, no other reason.
माहिती है क्या मैंने पॉज कर दो, बाद में एडिटिंग करनी पड़ेगी। जैसे ही मैं बता दूंगा ऐसे कॉल खत्म होगा।
ऐसे ना सर कह रहे हैं कि मैंने
Okay, out of 57, 21 participants have done, and still we are waiting for other participants. Please, all participants, take your time, no problem. We have more 7 minutes more. Out of 65, 42 participants have done the polling. Still few are remaining. 5 minutes are passed. Now 5 minutes are remaining.
So have we done with the polling? I think let's check the results. Dr. Vinod? Yes, so we got the results. Nice. First question, correct. Most of you have answered correctly. Second, can only be applied. Let's see when we proceed with the slides. Okay, third question. Okay, so let's see if these ambiguities are cleared with this session. So proceeding with the session, let's. Okay, so neurodevelopmental technique, as the word suggests, neuro pertaining to brain and nerves, and development emphasizes the importance of understanding the normal movement pattern, because it says that normal movement pattern leads to the development of functional skills. And any abnormality in the movement pattern would definitely hinder the development of functional skills. So NDT focuses on the understanding and developing and facilitating these normal movement patterns and efficient movement patterns for the development of functionality. So NDT is a therapeutic approach to the assessment and management. So it is not just the assessment part, it also helps you in the assessment also of the people with neurological deficits. So all the conditions, not just cerebral palsy or stroke, this approach is applicable for all the conditions of neurological impairment, be of any age, children, adults, geriatric population, anybody. So it is applicable in all neurological problems and helps in the assessment and management of these people. And the goal is to develop and to maximize and enhance the functional ability by facilitating the normal movement patterns. Okay, so therapist analyzes the motor, sensory, and cognitive impairment. A therapist need to see a person as a whole. Whole means the motor, sensory, emotional, cognitive, all the aspects should be considered while treating or dealing with these children. So because all these things are integrated to each other and one aspect impacts the other aspect, so a therapist has to analyze the child as a whole. All these things leads to functional skill development. Proceeding forward. So here it says that motor movements, a child is born, he explores an environment by moving his arms, his legs, he rolls over, he turns. So all these things, by doing all these things, he actually explores the environment. He put all his things in his mouth. He explores the environment and he gets the stimulation. So the motor movements lead to the exploration and he gets the stimulation, which leads to the development of not just motor skills but also social adaptive behavior, language, and cognitive abilities. So motor movement is basically leading you to the development of these functions, and by enhance these functions, it further enhances motor movement. So it is an integrated thing. One aspect leads to the development of the other aspect. So that's why it says that a therapist has to analyze all the aspects of development. Now, NDT is a problem-solving strategy and clinical reasoning process. Now, what is problem-solving strategy? Let's suppose a parent comes to you and he says that my child is unable to put his arm into the sleeve. Now, you will do the clinical reasoning. What could be the reason that the child is unable to put the arm in the sleeves. So the reason could be his decreased range of motion, the tone that is hindering his movement or the arm movement, or the lack of coordination or midline orientation. All these things is hindering the movement. So by reasoning, you are actually solving the problem. You will increase the range of motion if the problem is that. If there is a lack of coordination, you will work on that, or there will be combination of many things. So you will able to solve the problems. Then it is a therapeutic handling strategy responsive to changing needs of the individual. The entity is very dynamic. It is responsive to the changing needs of the individual. The therapy program is not rigid. The therapist has to be very flexible, very adaptive, and he should see the response of the child and adapt his strategy by getting the response. Sometimes the child is very responsive, so we can add few things. If the child is not that responsive, then we can change accordingly. So it is not rigid. A base to combine with other treatment modalities. The beauty of this entity is that it welcomes other treatment approaches to be combined with it. So latest approaches, all the current scientific updated knowledge can be combined with it. Like you can combine it with aquatic therapy, you can combine with dry needling, you can combine it with kinesiotaping, and so forth. I have also been combining this entity with yoga, aerobics, kinesiotaping, and I'm getting very good results. So by combining, you are actually updating yourself. It is continuously evolving. It is dynamic. The therapy is not stagnant. Like I said, it is a holistic approach and considers the individual as a whole. So a clinician has to consider a child as a whole and develop the strategy according to that. A living concept evolving with current scientific knowledge and theories. As I said, whatever is evidence-based at that moment, you can combine those scientific knowledge with entity, with the principles of entity, because entity is not a set of exercise. It is the approach, it is the concept, and you can combine it with the current scientific knowledge and theories, and you will get very good results. Moving forward, it is a multidisciplinary approach. Dealing with children with special needs requires a team. It's not a one-man show, and the team includes the clinicians, the specialists, consultants, surgeons, therapists like physiotherapists, occupational therapists, SLTs, and so on and so forth. The plus minuses could occur, but the team is required to basically deal with it. And important is the special educators, also the teachers. But among these, I would regard the most important person in this multidisciplinary team are the parents. Because parents are with the child 24/7, and we are with the child for few minutes or maybe hours. But parents are the person, or caregivers are the person who are with the child most of the time. So they would need to be included in the team, and they need to know what programs you are making in goal setting and programming. In all the things, you need to involve the parents also, because sometimes parents come up with very good suggestions or something. So you can mutually work it out. Moving forward, these are the common postures of children with cerebral palsy. Here you can see the bending of the legs, okay? And in this picture, you can see the asymmetrical pattern. Asymmetry is between right and left side of the body. You can see right side is arm is flexed, and the left is abducted and extended. So, and there is no distance between two legs. In the third picture, you can see the sacral sitting. The child is sitting on the sacrum while we sit on the coccyx. So all these things lead to the development of secondary complications in the form of deformity and contracture. And if these deformity and contractures are made, then it will hinder the functionality. So we need to minimize and inhibit the complications as much as possible. So NDT helps in the development of normal movement patterns so that we can enhance the functionality of the child. So what are the principles? Identification of a problem. How you can identify a problem? You can identify a problem by doing a very good assessment. Now the assessment could include the checking of the tone, the mode of mobility, how the child is moving around, the reflexes, the controls, the balances, the GMFCS level. All these things would help you to identify the problem. So a very good detailed assessment is required on the part of the therapist to get to know of the problem. Sometimes the problems are hidden, are not that apparent, so you can miss out. So you need to very intelligently you have to check what the problem the child may be going through. And one thing is by doing the assessment, and the other is by interviewing the parent. As I said, parents are very important in this whole dealing with these children. So you need to question, you need to interview the parents. Sometimes parents come up with problems which hinders child in ADL, activities of daily living, and by that you can actually solve the problem. Once a parent came to me and she said that my child, although he runs around, he's very active, he could cross the hurdles, but whenever we go to the play area, he is unable to climb the jumping castle. So there we come across that he has a participation restriction. He cannot participate with his peers. The problem could seem very trivial to us, but it is very important on the part of the child and parents. So what we did, we did all the assessment, and we came to know what is the problem, that why the child is unable to climb the jumping castle while he is running, and also climb crossing hurdles and all. So after that we did some therapy, and then they said that now he is able to do that, and he is now enjoying with his friends. So identifying the problem is by doing assessment and by interviewing the parents. Okay, moving forward, inhibition of abnormal movement patterns. Abnormal movement pattern you can inhibit by doing tone influencing pattern, that is TIP, and RIP, that is reflex inhibiting pattern. In further slides I'll tell you how to do tone influencing patterns. Okay, then specific preparation for specific function. Now, in every session, you have to make a goal that by the end of the session, a child should be able to do these things. Like my aim of this therapy is to make the child stand holding on the parallel bar or walker. So whatever I will do to make the child achieve that by the end of the session, by doing all the stretches, elongation, pelvic control, truncal control, all the exercises that I'll be doing in the initial part, that will lead to the development of the function later in my session. So with every session you need to make a goal, and if you have a goal, then you will plan accordingly. If you will have no goal by the end of the session, then there will be difficulty in doing the specific preparation. And then the muscle need to be at the best length for activation. Definitely for any activity to do, we align ourselves so that we can perform the activity. So for standing, you need the elongation of the whole lower limbs and the trunk. So muscle need to be at the best length for activation. Moving forward, here I said that the tone influencing pattern that I talked about, in this picture you can well see that the child is in asymmetrical position. The right side and left side of the body is in asymmetry. How? You can see the right shoulder is in internal rotation, adduction, elbows extended, wrist flexed and fingers flexed. And likewise the lower limbs also flexed and abducted. While the left side, left arm you can see is in external rotation, abduction, elbow flexed, and the lower limb is in extension. So, and by looking here, you can, I think, feel that the child would be having increased hypertonia, right? So he would be stiff. And let's suppose if I have a plan that the child is, I have to make the child roll to do rolling. So do you think that in this position, the child would be able to roll? Definitely not, because the child is so stiff, the limbs are not extended, all the things that are required to do rolling, the child, this position would hinder that. So I will take the child into TIP, tone inferencing pattern. I will break this pattern by going into opposite to this already. The child is in which pattern, I will do the opposite of it. And in the next video, I will tell you that how we are going to doing the TIP. Okay. Okay, I have taken the child into side lying position, and if you remember, the left arm was in abduction, right? And it was flexed, elbow was flexed, right? So I have taken the side lying position. Why? Because now the gravity would assist to bring this arm from abduction to adduction, right? And then I'm starting from the proximal segment, and it is also, you start with the proximal segment and the distal segment automatically relaxes. So we'll see how it relaxes. I'm starting with the proximal part, mobilizing the shoulder joint, and now extension of the elbow, which was flexed. So I'm going opposite to what the child was in. I'm using the ball. So the important thing is that the choice of toys that you are using depends on the cognitive, the mental stage of the child, right? If the child mental age is 3 or 4 years, then you can use the rattle, all the things that give out light and sound. So the choice of the toys matters a lot, because by this, you will take the interest of the child. So ball interest everybody, and it relaxes actually. So I'm using this ball for the relaxation purpose, and also this is interesting to the child. Now you can see the fingers are relaxed, the fingers which were flexed and are now relaxed. Okay. So in this position, I have taken all the arms into midline, both the arms into midline. Now this is complete symmetrical position. The child was asymmetrical earlier on, and I have taken the symmetrical position to break the pattern. By doing this, you will decrease the tone, the stiffness will decrease, and you can see the decreased stiffness by the smile on the child's face. Yeah, you can see the child is enjoying the rolling thing. Okay.
Next slide to the right. Sorry, screen to right. Next.
Okay, in this position, as you can see, we talked about that these children tend to sit on the sacral sitting position. So the child is also leaning backwards, sitting on the sacrum, and shoulder are in internal rotation, hips in flexion, knee in flexion, and the distance between two legs is small, the foot is over the other. So this is also shows the increased tonicity, and here most of child is bearing most of the weight on left side of the body. Now this is the child that I have aimed to make him stand after the end of the session, but this position will not, in this position the child will not be able to stand, because there is lack of truncal balance, the pelvic control is also not good, and there is flexion, a lot of flexion at hip and knee. So all these things will hinder in the standing. So I will make all the specific preparation so that the child stands by the end of the session, and we'll see how we'll do. Maybe starting with the scapular proximal, as I said, that we're going to start with the proximal part, maybe mobilizing the sacrum, the shoulder, and then moving to the pelvic region. We can mobilize the pelvis, extend the hips and knees, and taking it into external rotation and abduction. So like this, we took him, and now you can see the child is in a much better position. The sacral sitting is decreased, leaning backward has decreased, and the child is taking weight on both sides of the body. The legs are very much extended, and there is a sufficient distance between two legs, which is pelvic bone apart, and we need that distance when we stand up, and the foot is also not over the other. So now the child is in much better position to do the activity as well, and he will be able to stand, because now and I have maintained this extended leg position by using the knee immobilizers. As I said, that this approach you can combine it with other modalities. So I have maintained it by using knee immobilizers, because whatever correction that you are making, you have to maintain it throughout the session, and not just throughout the session, but throughout the day, for which you need to educate the parent as well. So next is the facilitation of correct pattern. By inhibiting the abnormal pattern, which is normal for that child, definitely he is having difficulty doing the correct pattern of movement. So what we are going to do, we are going to facilitate that. What is facilitation? It is the help that we give to the child to ease the movement, right? So facilitation we give by using key point of controls. Key point of controls is the support that we give to the child. We have proximal key point of control and distal key point of control. It depends on the problem site. If the problem site, let's suppose, is pelvis, and your hand is away from the pelvis, that is distal key point of control. And if your hand is towards the problem site or at the problem site, then it is proximal. With proximal key point of control means that the child is less active and you are giving more support, and as you are moving your key point control distally, child gains the active participation and your help is reduced. So the therapy should go from the proximal to distal, and finally very smoothly you have to remove the key point of control. Now it is also very important from where you are facilitating. Okay, like if a child has to hold this pen and he is holding it by this posture, which is an abnormal posture, and it will give him sprain and all. You can give facilitation distally, right? You can turn the arm into correct, hand into correct position, and the child will hold it, but still there is lot of internal rotation and it will give you sprain. Next facilitation can be given from here. By giving this facilitation, you are actually correcting all the chain. The elbow is also in the correct position and hand is also in a correct position. So it is very important that you should know from where you should start the facilitation and then proceed forward. Okay, you can see here the child is now able to stand. He has better truncal control, pelvic control, and my key point of control is at knees. Knees is why knees? Because the child had difficulty extending the knees, since the knee mobilizers are also removed. So this, if the problem site is knee and I'm giving support at the knees, then this is the proximal key point of control. If the problem site is pelvis and my hand is at knee, then this is distal key point of control. Okay, elimination of sensory issues. We have senses, most commonly the 5 senses, but also the proprioception sense and the vestibular sense is also very important. the sensory integration, if the child has good sensory integration, then you get a good motor response. But if the child is having sensory integration dysfunction, then it will affect the motor response as well. For example, if a child has come to you with the problem of tiptoeing, that he walks on his toes, so the first thing that comes to a physical therapist's mind is the musculoskeletal aspect, that maybe his gastrocnemius are tight, and we start stretching the lower limbs, hamstrings and gastrocnemius right away without further checking it, because this is the common thing that we do. So but still, we after stretchings also we feel that the child is still not keeping his heels down and is still walking on a stone. Then we need to see what could be the other reason. It could be sensory issue, like he can have a tactile problem. He doesn't like the touch of the heels with the ground, so we need to desensitize the heels so that he is now able to put his heels down. So maybe the tightness in the gastrocnemius has occurred secondary to the tiptoeing, and the primary reason was the sensory part, the tactile part. So it is very important that we also eliminate the sensory aspect also. Sometimes the child is very hypermobile. He keeps on moving because he needs lot of movement to satisfy himself, and sometimes the children are very hypermobile. Little movement disturbs him, as in the case of vertigo. So in this you can see we have, while doing gait training, we have put foot marks, that is giving the sensory, the visual prompt where to put the feet in the correct alignment, and also the foot marks are of different textures. So it is giving the tactile stimulation also. So two senses are using in this gait training, the visual and the tactile. Okay, the repetition of pattern activities of daily living for a neuroplasticity, then change, the neuroplasticity is the change that occurs due to the development of neural pathways. So a thing that has to become permanent, it needs to be repeated in activities of daily living, because whatever movements we are doing, we are using it in our daily living activities. And in the case of children with cerebral palsy, they have difficulty using those movements in ADLs. So you need, whatever exercises you are doing, you need to implement it in the activities of daily living so that it is repeated throughout the day. By repetition, the movement would become automatic, and after automatic it will lead to the development of the function. So repetition is very important, repetition of correct pattern and activities of daily living, and which leads to a development of function. So we have active participation. NDT is not at all passive. The child has to fully participate. For that, whatever activity you plan during the therapy session should consider the mental age of the child, so that you engage the child in the activity and he takes part in the exercise session. It should be very playful, very interesting, so that you get the full response from the child. In this, you can see that the child is standing on the balance board. So I'm working on the balance aspect, the shifting of weight forward or backward, sideways, and also if I have to increase the range of motion, what I have done, I have placed the coin box on top of the shelf, and the coins are placed on at different levels. So the child will come down and pick up the coin and will put in the coin box. By doing this, she will be using the abdominals and the extensors of the trunk. So there will be a very good concentric and eccentric work of the trunk. So this you can well see that the child is totally engrossed in doing the activity, and we are achieving our goal of shifting the weight, pelvic control, truncal balance, the co-contraction of the abdominals and extensors, and increasing the range of motion. So all these things are achieved if we plan the therapy session very well. In this, you can see that I wanted the bilateral hand use, for which I made the child to hold this basketball and shoot it. So for bilateral hand function, you can use this activity depending on the child's interest. Okay, at the end, there are certain tips. Be sensitive to the family's needs, because caring for these children is not easy. So you need to acknowledge the efforts of the parents, the caregivers, support them, help them in whatever way you can, solve their problems, observe how the child is handled by the carers, and demonstrate handling techniques. Whatever you are correcting the posture, and empower the parents so that they continue and make them do all these activities at home setting also. And because practice is what is required in NDT, it will become permanent if it is practiced a lot. So end of it, I would say that a child with special needs will inspire you to be a special kind of a person. Thank you. Hope you have whatever ambiguities you had initially are solved. So can we do the polling again, Vinod, of the same questions?
Okay, ma'am. I am relaunching the poll. Okay, the poll is start again.
Many of these questions, almost all of the questions were in the slides, and hopefully the ambiguities is solved now. I think it's easier for everyone, yes.
Out of 61, 34 participants have answered. 50% of response we have get, still be the remaining 50%. 45 participants have answered. Still 20 remaining. Please make it fast.
इसकी जो है ना वो तो असल स्पेक जो वो लिखा हुआ है 128 GB क्या चीज है वो
Okay, madam. 47 participants have answered, and I think.
ठीक है
Okay,
सही
let's see their results.
Okay. So these are the results.
So,
गवर्नर सेशन
so now, yes, we have seen the increased good response. Second question were mostly false before that. Now it's true. Sorry, entity can only be applied. So, as I said, it cannot be only be applied. It can apply in all neurological conditions. Entity is a client-centered approach. Yes, correct. Okay. Therapist analyzes all the aspect. Yes, we have to see the child as a whole, and all of the above are correct. Then entity cannot be combined with other treatment modalities. It is false, correct. And then multidisciplinary team includes parents, definitely yes. So most 96% has answered correctly. Facilitation is the passive movement. No, it is not. It is the help that we give the child to ease the movement. It is not the passive movement of the patient. Okay, the proximal and distal key point of control is with reference to the problem site. As I told, the problem site is the reference point, right? And then repetition of the patterns in ADLs lead to automatic, which is correct. And then only physical therapist can use. No, all the multidisciplinary team can use the BOBAT, occupational therapist, SLT, anybody can use NDT. Okay. Done. Thank you so much.
No, webinar is not completed yet. Dr. Fahad will join you shortly for another session. Hello, assalamu alaikum, Dr. Fahad.
Assalamualaikum. Dilip, just give me 2 minutes and I'll join you in
Okay.
2 minutes.
No problem.
Okay, sir. All the participants are requested to wait for a while, and there's a technical issue with the internet. And secondly, Dr. Fahad is going to be conduct a session on aquatic therapy in CP patients.
Assalamualaikum, dear. Okay, Vinod, we can start the session now. कैसे हैं आप लोग? ठीक हैं? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Surely.
Yes,
So,
sir.
should we start the session now?
Fine, sir.
Yes.
Walaikum assalam. Dilip, can we start the session now?
Yes, sir. It's over to you now, Dr. Fahad. You can start.
Okay, ji. Assalamualaikum everyone, or sorry for keeping you waiting in the session. There are some technical difficulties I've been facing here today, so थोड़ा सा ज़रा था problem, इस वजह से ज़रा late हो गया. But now let's get on with the topic, and the topic we're going to discuss today is the aquatic therapy in cerebral palsy. See, the concepts what I'm going to discuss today are not only for cerebral palsy, it's for any neurological disorder, or even though it can also be used in musculoskeletal disorders also, or just for relaxation phases after the sports or manipulative techniques. But we're going to concentrate today on the aspect of cerebral palsy and how does aquatic therapy affect it. I'm going to share some slides now, and then at the end of the session, we're going to show you some of the videos which would show you the basic techniques. I repeat it, the basic techniques, not the only techniques, but the basic techniques designed for aquatic therapy for the patients of cerebral palsy. Okay, or let's start with the screen share and then we'll proceed forward. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the evident therapy, the evident aquatic therapy. It is based on the evidences prepared to implement the hydrotherapy, aquatic therapy, whatever would you like to call it. But there's an assumption. There's an what should I expect it to be known as? It is it's assumed automatically by everyone that hydrotherapy or the water has the healing aspect. But what I'm going to tell you now is that it is not the water which is healing. It is the physical properties, the effects of mechanical properties of water, which helps in healing, which helps in management, not actually healing, but it helps in management. So the objectives today are to understand the hydrodynamics of aquatic therapy, the immersion physiology, and we're going to see the contraindications and indications, precautions related to aquatic therapy. Then how to design a exercise pattern or the aquatic session for a cerebral palsy child. Okay, so now what is aquatic therapy? Actually, how do you define it? How do you explain what water can do for the patient? Basically, what we do is we have two things in hand. One are the long-term effects and the other are the short-term effects. The long-term and short-term effects are related with two basic properties of hydrotherapy, which are the thermal effects and the mechanical effects. What they do is they create a stimulus which in turn relaxes the symptoms, it relaxes the condition, or it would help in resistance training or in assistive, as in assistive therapy. So the aquatic assumption that I said, that it is going to heal fast, it's going to heal the disorder. No, it would help the patient to do something which is quite, the patient is quite unable to perform on land. So this is what it's about. What it's going to get is, you're going to gain the benefits of weightlessness. You're going to gain the benefits of relieving the gravity. So this is what you are going to gain from aquatic therapy or hydrotherapy. Okay. The advantages that we are going to gain from hydrotherapy are hydrodynamic principles, which includes the buoyancy, hydrostatic pressure, turbulent and thermal effects. So what is buoyancy? The buoyancy is the mechanical force of water keeping a body weightless within the water. And how does it affect you? Everyone knows what center of gravity is and where the center of gravity is. Center of gravity is situated at second sacral vertebra, or should I be very specific, it's 2.5 centimeters anterior to second sacral vertebra. And the balance which you gain on land is because your line of gravity is passing through the center of gravity and it stays within the base of support. This is how you achieve balance or equilibrium on land. But in case of water, the center of gravity is which does not affect equilibrium and stability. Then what is the where is the center of stability? Where would you get the center for that? The center is now the center of buoyancy. And where is it situated? It's situated where the air is, and air is in your lungs. It's in the pleural space and lungs. So this is what keeps you above water. If there's air in your lungs, it keeps your body floating. So now the weightlessness and now the balance, both together. So it challenges you and it assists you at the same time. It is assisting you in how it's relieving the gravity. Now it is challenging you how it is making you stabilize your body. It is making yourself more stable. You'll try to do more effort to make yourself stable. And now how do you get the stability? If the center of buoyancy and the center of gravity are aligned in the same plane, if they are in the same line, if it is balanced in the same line, you will be stable in the water. So you'll ask the patient to keep the center, you teach the patient to keep the center of gravity and the center of buoyancy within one plane in a single section, in a single line. And if you can achieve that, you can work on the stability, balance and equilibrium of a patient, which cannot be achieved on ground, can be achieved within the water. Okay, so this is what we do. What center of gravity and center of buoyancy does in water is it creates a sort of a force of torque. It creates torque, which in turn creates rotational movement movement of the body within the water. And when you keep the both together, keep the both in one plane, this rotational force is counteracted by your force, creating a resistive environment, creating in turn indirect strengthening effect to the balance and equilibrium you're trying to achieve. So how does buoyancy works? How does buoyancy work? What else does it matter? How does it keep you weightless? If you are underwater, you're immersed in the water for about 20% of your body structure at the level of the ankle below the knee. The water which takes your weight off is about 20%. If you're at the level of waist immersed into the water, your weightlessness is about 40%. And if you're underwater till your neck, your clavicle, if you're immersed in the water till your clavicle, you're about 90% weightless. And there's very little effort required to stay upright in water then. So this is how the buoyancy works. So how do you use it? You'll use it to do gait training. You can use it to achieve equilibrium. You can use it for movement training, for mobility training. You can use it to correct the position of the spine, which you cannot achieve on ground. So this is what you can achieve because of effects of buoyancy. Then turbulence or drag. How do you use turbulence or drag? The turbulence is the opposing effects of water to the movement of a human being. When a client, a patient starts to move the body within the water, a force is exerted by the water to the body to resist the movement. This is what and then that causes what? It causes the change in the state of water. Doing what? Changing the making waves smaller or large in size. It makes these waves. These waves are turbulences. Now, how to use these turbulence? If the turbulence is small, if the change in the state of water is small, you can use it as a sedative method, as a massaging method. To do what? To relax the muscles, to relax the spasticity or the spasm of a muscle. Large waves does what? The large waves gives you the resistance training. It gives you, it acts as the resistance for you to work against it. It becomes challenging for you to go against waves. So turbulence is acted as such. How to reduce the turbulence? If you walk within water in front of a patient, it would do what? It would clear the water, it would create the turbulence, clearing the space for a patient to follow you behind you and taking it a bit lighter resistance to walk through. So you can use the turbulence for the assistance also. Okay, so let's get on to the next one, the thermal effects. The thermal effect should be, the temperature of the water or the pool should be between 32 to 38 degrees centigrade, depending on what you wanted to achieve with it. So the specific or the average water temperature which should be maintained at all times, which should be a comfortable temperature for the patient, is 33.5 to 35.5 degrees centigrade. But this is something which is an average. You can keep it a bit low, you can keep it a bit up to the level of 38 degrees centigrade, depending on what you want to achieve. At this temperature, what do you get? What you get is it initiates the compensatory mechanism. Change in temperature always initiates the sympathetic system and in turn causes what? A compensatory mechanism to kick on and do different activities, different changes in the state of body. In this case, what we wanted to do is we want vasoconstriction, and sometimes with vasoconstriction and change in temperature, we also get shivering, which is rather useless or which is rather a bit of a difficulty to maintain, but it happens sometimes. Then it also causes vasodilation in a prolonged session. If the temperature is a bit more, if it's high, and the session is a bit longer, it causes vasodilation also. So this vasoconstriction and vasodilation does what? What do we achieve from it? What we wanted to achieve is the return of fluid or the return of the blood back to the heart. Doing what? When there is more blood to the heart, it pumps more to the peripheries. In turn, doing what? When more blood is pumped in one heartbeat, it needs to beat lesser per minute. So if your heart rate is about 80 beats per minute, it would reduce a bit more. It would reduces to about 60 if your heart is in good condition. It reduces to 60 if the return of the blood is more to the heart. Okay, what else happens? The temperature also softens the collagen. But when does it happen? It happens when the session is minimum of 10 minutes or more. If you'll stay in hot water for 10 minutes, it also helps the collagen to get softer. In turn, does what? Easier to improve the range of motion, easier for a patient to increase the mobility or the movement required. Okay, and the temperature also reduces spasticity. Then short-term physiological adaptations of immersion. Now, what physiological changes do you get? You'll get venous compression, you'll get lymphatic compression. In turn, does what? It improves your blood pressure. When the peripheral blood is properly returned to the heart by the venous system and there's no pooling, no edema to the limbs, to the lower limbs precisely, the heart is efficiently pumping. And when it's efficiently pumping, it also regulates blood pressure and it reduces the blood pressure a bit to the, if it's in comparison with on ground. Right? So this is what it does. Okay, how much does it change? It changes about, it's written here it's 10%, but it's a bit more. It increases, it reduces the blood pressure, or it adjusts the blood pressure about 20 mmHg or somewhere. It can reduces that. So now, what else? Increased blood flow to the muscles. Definitely, when there's more blood to the heart, it pumps more efficiently to the periphery, gets it more to the muscles, more nutrition to the muscles, more oxygen to the muscles, causing it to do what? Relaxes. There's no lactic acid then, the removal of the fatigue factors, removal of the P factor, so in turn causes relaxation. What else do we get? Okay, it also helps us to do, what should I say, isokinetic exercises. It also helps us to do isokinetic movement in water, which you cannot do on ground, which cannot do on the effects of gravity. So the isokinetic movements can be initiated and performed within water. So the speed remains same. The cadence also remains same, whatever the movement is. The cadence, the speed of movement almost remains same, whatever type of movement you're performing in the water. So it helps you maintain an isokinetic environment for a patient to work into. Okay, so the complex physiology. Okay, the complex physiology involves the chemical interaction within the body because of the effects of increased heart rate, increased blood to the tissue, increased and decreased blood pressure, decreased heart rate. So the chemical interaction changes. What happens is the immunity improves. It helps in the it helps neutrophils to infiltrate more. It increases the secretion of cytokinase. It increases the blood glucose absorption efficiency. It improves the insulin efficiency, in turn reducing the blood glucose levels. So this is what it helps in doing. Now the pediatric immersion. Pediatric immersion is important because a child is a bit difficult to कहेंगे उसे कि कन्विंस करना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल होता है एक बच्चे को पानी में ले जाना और पानी से बाहर लेके आना. It's a bit difficult to do so. So what you want to do is you want to explain the whole method to the child, or even to a adult also. You need to do it to adult also, but adults it's more important for a child to do it. You have to have the proper equipment for it. You have to design it according to the child. As Dr. Nazia said कि mental age बड़ी matter करती है. अगर उसकी mental age 3 से 4 साल की और उसे आप toy ऐसा दे रहे हैं जो उसकी understanding से बाहर है, तो वो उसमें interest नहीं लेगा. तो इसी किस्म की environment उसको हाइड्रोथेरेपी में भी जो है वो maintain आपने रखवानी है. लेकिन वो toys वो होने चाहिए जो functionally उसको help out कर सकें. Like a ball, like a float, like a noodle, like a donut. I'm going to discuss it further on कि वो क्या क्या equipments हैं और ये जिनके नाम मैं ले रहा हूँ वो क्या है. So it's a bit difficult for a child to handle a child in entry and exit levels. So you have to be very careful as well. Now, what happens in the exit? Why exit is very important? The exit is important for two main factors. Number one is when blood pressure has been lowered and the heart rate has been lowered, it is quite possible that if the patient gets out unassisted out of the pool, he might get vertigo or dizziness, which in turn increases the risk of fall. This is very important. And the other one is when the patient is getting out of the water, the patient is definitely in risk of reduced friction because of water, because of the patient is wet, the floor is wet. We'll have to be very careful for that also. Okay. What are the routine precautions? The routine precautions are the same, almost the same as in any other condition, any other technique which we use. What we have to do is, if there's a wound, cover it up with what? With a Tagardam bandage. If there is a skin condition, you'll have to cover it up. You'll have to ask the patient if there are any chemical allergies to the patient. Why chemical allergies? There has to be the cleaning chemicals in the pool, like chlorine. Okay, you'll have to see if the patient is epileptic, and if the patient is epileptic, how often does he get the epileptic strokes, or how often does a patient take medicine, and if the patient is on a sort of a medication which makes a patient unstable, so you'll have to be very careful for that also. Then you'll have to be precautious for the patients who have hearing and visual impairments. You'll have to be more precautious with them. Then heat sensitive patients. So you'll have to maintain the temperature also. You'll have to see the skin changes occurring within the water. If there are any certain redness, certain sort of itching or burning sensation to the patient, you should remove the patient instantly, immediately from the condition. Then there are other factors which are very obvious. And if the patient is infectious, you cannot take the patient into the pool if there's any sort of of infection there. Because we also take patients in groups or in individual forms. If it's in individual form, even though the therapist is inside with the patient. So if there is an infection which you prefer, which you think can spread, you shouldn't take the patient within the hydrotherapy. Now the contraindications. DVT, definitely. CVA, instant death, definitely. You'll have to do it. Chikaji, vomiting and diarrhea. If there are signs and symptoms of vomiting and diarrhea, you'll have to do it. Angina, unstable cardiac conditions, shortness of breath, uncontrolled cardiac failure. So these are all the open wounds which cannot be covered with the Tagardam, or a patient having seizures. right before a patient, right after a seizure shouldn't be taken. If a patient is having seizures very inconsistently, what should I say, K? You cannot make a timetable of when the seizure should come, so you shouldn't take the patient in the water. अच्छा जी, there are two types of advantages. एक advantage client का, एक advantage therapist का. क्लाइंट को क्या एडवांटेज मिलता है? वेटलेसनेस मिलती है, वो सारी इफेक्टिवनेस वही है, वो सारे एक्टिविटीज वो कर सकता है जो जमीन पे नहीं कर सकता था, लैंड पे नहीं कर सकता था, वो सारी एक्टिविटीज आपने उसको पानी में करवा दी. और क्या है जी, गिरेगा नहीं. मैक्सिमम क्या हो सकता है? मैक्सिमम यही हो सकता है कि थोड़ा सा डिसबैलेंस हो जाएगा, तो पानी थोड़ा सा जो है वो ले लेगा मुंह में. दिस इज मोस्ट विच कैन बी डन अगर आप उसके साथ उस पूल में मौजूद हैं एज ए प्रिकॉशन, उसको असिस्ट करने के लिए. और क्या होगा जी, लोड रिड्यूस हो जाता है जॉइंट पे से पानी में, क्योंकि बायंसी है, डेफिनेटली कीपिंग दी वेट अप. तो जाहिर सी बात है कि जब जॉइंट पे से लोड हट जाता है, इजियर टू मूव फॉर आर्थराइटिक पेशेंट्स. उनकी मूवमेंट आसान हो जाती है, उनका जो है वो गेट ट्रेनिंग पैटर्न्स आसान हो जाते हैं, उनकी मूवमेंट करना आसान हो जाता है. ठीक है. एंड द टेम्परेचर ऑफ द वाटर एंड द मूवमेंट विद इन वाटर रिड्यूसेस द एंजाइटी आल्सो एंड इट रिलैक्सेस द पर्सन. Okay, it also distracts by play also. जाहिर है जब आप जो है वो एक्टिविटी पानी में परफॉर्म करेंगे, वो थोड़ी देर का सेशन takes about 10 minutes to about 2.5 hours. This session extends up to half hour. उस आधे घंटे में वो आप उसकी मूवमेंट से, उसके प्ले से उसको डिस्ट्रैक्ट कर सकते हैं, और उस डिस्ट्रैक्शन में आप उससे कई किस्म की ऐसी एक्टिविटीज परफॉर्म करवा सकते हैं जो शायद आप ऑन ग्राउंड या डायरेक्ट कमांड से उससे ना करवा पाते. This is what I'm talking about, a cerebral palsy child. Right? Then therapist को क्या advantages मिल जाते हैं? On ground, it's quite possible a patient is too heavy, it's too obese, and you cannot handle the patient on ground for training. You can take the patient within the water, making weightless, and then you can train it. This is a very, very strong point for a therapist. Then बैलेंस एक्टिविटीज कराना बड़ा आसान हो जाता है. बैलेंस एक्टिविटीज ऑन ग्राउंड ऑन बैलेंस बोर्ड करवाना इज क्वाइट डिफिकल्ट रादर देन डूइंग इट विद इन द वाटर. सो थेरेपिस्ट के लिए ये भी आसान हो जाता है. फिर थेरेपिस्ट को एक टूल मिल जाता है एज ए एक्वाटिक थेरेपी, जिसमें वो आइसोकाइनेटिक मूवमेंट्स को ट्रेन कर दे, जिसके लिए ना अब स्प्रिंग की जरूरत पड़ेगी, ना किसी मशीन की जरूरत पड़ेगी आइसोकाइनेटिक मूवमेंट करवाने के लिए, ना उसको किसी जो है वो बैंड की जरूरत पड़ेगी. हाइड्रोस्टैटिक हाइड्रोडायनेमिक प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ वाटर को आप इस्तेमाल करते हुए आइसोकाइनेटिक मूवमेंट करवा लेंगे उससे. ठीक है जी. तो दीज आर दी सम ऑफ दी थिंग्स व्हिच यू कैन डू. अच्छा, कभी भी पानी में उतारने के लिए क्या क्या प्री रिक्विजिट्स क्या क्या है? आपको पहले तो ये प्री डिफाइंड होना चाहिए कि आपका एम क्या है, आपने करना क्या है, किस किस्म की एक्टिविटीज करवानी है, कौन सी एक्टिविटी पहले करवानी है, कौन सी एक्टिविटी बाद में करवानी है. अगर आपने हैफेजर्ड करवाने की कोशिश करी तो यही वाटर आपको हिंड्रेंसेस देना शुरू कर देगा, रेजिस्टेंस देना शुरू कर देगा रादर देन असिस्टेंस. कैसे? आप अनप्लान्ड मूवमेंट करवाएंगे, इट विल क्रिएट टर्बुलेंस. आप अनप्लान्ड मूवमेंट परफॉर्म करवाएंगे, फॉरन चेंज करवाएंगे, इट वुड मेक अ पेशेंट हाइपर एक्टिव. इन टर्न हाइपर एक्टिविटी में क्या होगा? उसकी रिलैक्सेशन उसकी एंजाइटी में कन्वर्ट हो जाएगी. तो यू विल हैव टू हैव एन एम्ड कंट्रोल्ड एनवायरनमेंट for a patient to get into the water. पता होना चाहिए क्या करना है, किस वक्त कौन सी एक्सरसाइज पहले, कौन सी बाद में, कौन सी एक्टिविटी को आपने प्रोलॉन्ग रखना है, कौन सी को आपने टर्मिनेट कर देना है. विदाउट दैट पानी में उतारना इज यूजलेस. फिर आपके पास सेफ्टी मेजर्स सारे मौजूद होने चाहिए. अगर जो है वो पेशेंट अनस्टेबल है तो आपको एक टाइट उसको ट्यूब देनी जो उसकी वेस्ट के अराउंड हो, आपने उसको कफ्स देने, एयर कफ्स देने, आपने उसको जो है वो नूडल दे देनी है सपोर्ट के लिए, एक फ्लोट सपोर्ट के लिए दे देना है, या आपने एक डोनट अराउंड द नेक डाल देना है जो उसको उसके हेड को अबव वाटर रखे, लाइक इन केस ऑफ हेयर इन अ पिक्चर इन दिस पिक्चर फॉर अ बेबी. तो ये दिया हुआ, ये सारी चीजों को आपने देखना है. अच्छा, ये सारी चीजें मैं अब आप लोगों से करा चुका हूं. अच्छा, अब रेजिस्टेंस ट्रेनिंग में क्या करना है? यहाँ पे आप जब रेजिस्टेंस ट्रेनिंग करवाते हैं हाइड्रोथेरेपी के दौरान या एक्वेटिक थेरेपी के दौरान, तो यहाँ आपको 1 रिपीटिशन मैक्सिमम का मेथड नहीं लग सकता. यू कैन नॉट डू इट फॉर 1 रिपीटिशन. मैक्सिमम मेथड तो अब आपको क्या करना है, अब आपको रिपीटिशन मेथड से जो है वो अपना गोल पूरा करना है। 1 रिपीटिशन मैक्सिमम ऑन ग्रेविटी काम करता है, जब ग्रेविटी के इफेक्ट्स हो रहे हैं 1 रिपीटिशन मैक्सिमम कैन नेवर वर्क इन एक्वेटिक थेरेपी। तो अब आप क्या करेंगे, आप स्पीड और रिपीटिशन पे काम करते हुए इस बात का ख्याल करते हुए कि पेशेंट को फटीग नहीं करना है। लेट मी रिमाइंड यू अगेन, वाटर कैन बी वेरी टायरिंग, इफ इट इज यूज्ड एज ए रेजिस्टेंस इट कैन बी वेरी टायरिंग। तो आपको फटीग नहीं करना है पेशेंट को। और 1 रिपीटिशन मैक्सिमम का याद रखना है कि 1 रिपीटिशन वाला मेथड आप हाइड्रोथेरेपी में इस्तेमाल, एक्वेटिक थेरेपी में इस्तेमाल नहीं करेंगे। क्या क्या करवा सकते हैं, फंक्शनल एक्टिविटीज, सिट टू स्टैंड करवा लीजिए, एक चेयर रख दीजिए पानी में, सिट टू स्टैंड करवा लीजिए, ट्रेडमिल रख दीजिए, उस पर वॉक करवा लीजिए। वो आपकी एक्वेटिक ट्रेडमिल्स आती हैं, एक्वेटिक ट्रेडमिल्स को आप पूल रखें और उसके थ्रू मूवमेंट परफॉर्म करवाइए, उसकी फंक्शनल गेट ट्रेनिंग करवाइए। ये सारी एक्टिविटीज आप उससे परफॉर्म करवा सकते हैं। डेप्थ इज ऑल्सो क्रिटिकल। डेप्थ इसलिए क्रिटिकल है कि जी अबव चेस्ट जिस वक्त आप जाते हैं ना, जब आप जो है वो क्लाविकल तक इमर्ज्ड होते हैं, तो वो होता क्या है कि नाउ द रिब केज और द इंटरकोस्टल एंड एक्स्ट्राकोस्टल मसल्स, the respiratory muscles around your cage, now they have to work a bit harder. क्यों? क्योंकि पर स्क्वायर फिट वाटर तकरीबन 20 mmHg का प्रेशर अप्लाई करता है। तो अगर आप 4 फीट पानी के नीचे हैं तो वो तकरीबन 80 mmHg का प्रेशर आपकी बॉडी पे अप्लाई कर रहा है। तो ये 80 mmHg का प्रेशर आपके रिब केज को ब्रीदिंग के दौरान एक रेजिस्टेंस प्रोवाइड करता है। और उस रेजिस्टेंस से क्या होता है कि आपकी जो पेशेंट की ब्रीदिंग है, नाउ इट इज ऑटोमेटिकली हैविंग ए रेजिस्टेंस थेरेपी, उसकी एक्सरसाइज हो रही है। ठीक है जी, तो क्या होगा जी, लंग कैपेसिटीज डेफिनेटली बढ़ जाएंगी अगर ब्रीदिंग पैटर्न ठीक है। आपको इन एक्सरसाइज के दौरान और पानी में इमर्ज रखने के दौरान, वाटर पूल में इमर्ज रखने के दौरान पेशेंट को, क्लाइंट को इस बात का बहुत ज्यादा ख्याल रखना है कि उसकी ब्रीदिंग पैटर्न सही हो। ही शुड ब्रीथ थ्रू द नोज and breathe out through the mouth. As in any exercise, you'll have to have the respiration normal, क्योंकि जब तक ऑक्सीजन नहीं होगी और प्रॉपर एब्जॉर्प्शन नहीं होगी ऑक्सीजन की, ब्रीदिंग प्रॉपर नहीं होगी, तो ब्लड का फ्लो वापस हार्ट तक बढ़ाने का भी कोई फायदा नहीं है। और पेशेंट माइट गो इन हाइपर एक्टिविटी, जब वो हाइपर ब्रीदिंग में चला जाएगा तो इट माइट डू दैट आल्सो। So you'll have to be very precautious about the breathing techniques. The resistance variability, जितना ज्यादा सरफेस एरिया इन वाटर से इन कांटेक्ट विद वाटर होगा, इन पूल होगा, उतना ज्यादा रेजिस्टेंस मिलेगा। स्पीड कांस्टेंट रहती है तकरीबन, लेकिन जो रेजिस्टेंस है वो तकरीबन इट कुड इंक्रीज फोल्ड्स अप। अच्छा जी, लीवर आर्म यूज करते हुए भी आप काम कर सकते हैं। आप चाहते हैं कि सरफेस एरिया कम करना है, आप पेशेंट से कहिए जी हैंड्स अक्रॉस द चेस्ट रख लें, या हाथ आगे ऐसे जो है वो इन अ वेज शेप का परफॉर्म कर ले। इससे क्या होगा कि कम एरिया मिलेगा उसको कांटेक्ट के लिए, नैरोअर एरिया मिलेगा, रेजिस्टेंस कम मिलेगा। एल्बोस बेंड करके चले, हाथ ऐसे जो है वो बांध ले, ठीक है, आप उसके सामने चलने लगे, आप उसको सरफेस एरिया को कांटेक्ट कम दे दें टर्बुलेंस के थ्रू। तो ये सारी चीजें करते हुए आप रेजिस्टेंस को ज्यादा या कम करके इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं।
तो मोबाइल से आ जाओ, ठीक है?
ओके, ये मैं डिस्कस कर चुका हूँ वो क्या क्या करेगी, क्या क्या चीजें आप अचीव कर सकते हैं। आप स्ट्रेंथनिंग करवा सकते हैं, आप गेट ट्रेनिंग करवा सकते हैं, आप प्रोप्रियोसेप्शन बेटर कर सकते हैं, बैलेंस ट्रेनिंग करवा सकते हैं। ये सम ऑफ द गोल्स हैं। बाकी इट डिपेंड्स ऑन हाउ यू हैव प्लान्ड योर सेशन इन द पूल, राइट? So these are some of the activities what we do. Okay, now I am going to show you some of the videos which can be used to treat a patient in pool. Okay, there are some of the videos that I'm going to show you. After that, we're going to have a question answer session. Okay, I hope आप लोगों को ये सेशन क्लियर होगा। हाइड्रोथेरेपी एक बहुत वास्ट सब्जेक्ट है और बहुत इन डेप्थ एनालिसिस के साथ करना पड़ता है। तो इस पे हम कोशिश करेंगे कि जब कोविड की कंडीशन से बाहर आ जाए तो हम एक प्रैक्टिकल सेशन रख सकें, और उस वक्त फिर आप बहुत बेहतर समझ पाएंगे, बहुत बेहतर इसको अंडरस्टैंड कर पाएंगे कि हाइड्रोथेरेपी को एक्चुअली प्रैक्टिकली परफॉर्म कैसे करना है। ठीक है, क्योंकि प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट है, थ्योरेटिकली आपको बेसिक समझ में आ जाएगी, लेकिन until and unless you do it by yourself, you are a bit hesitant to take the patient in water. So we're going to end the slide here, and I'm going to show you some videos. Okay, I hope this is the one, and we're going to play it. Can you see it? Melissa? Is it playing?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. अच्छा, आप लोग वीडियो आराम से पहले देख लें, उसके बाद फिर क्वेश्चन आंसर जो है ना, हम इसके बाद करते हैं, मुझसे भी और डॉक्टर नाजिया से भी जो भी क्वेश्चंस थे वो हम अभी इस सेशन के बाद करते हैं बस. Okay, now let's see the other one. Okay. Can you see it?
No.
Okay, another one. Okay, this is for initiation and ending the therapy. This is known as seaweed. आप इसे स्टार्ट करते वक्त और एंड करते वक्त दोनों वक्त जो परफॉर्म कर सकते हैं टू रिलैक्स द पेशेंट, टू इनिशिएट रिलैक्सेशन. Now the last one. This is to promote extension. बोली भी आपने ऑलरेडी and here I like this one. Okay, now you all seen the videos. सबसे डिफिकल्ट चीज जो हाइड्रोथेरेपी को एक्सेप्ट करने से हमारे इन्वायरमेंट में, हमारे कल्चर में हमें प्रॉब्लम करती है, वो है इमर्जन इन वाटर फॉर फीमेल्स. व्हाट टाइप ऑफ ड्रेपिंग दे शुड हैव, और क्या बेडिंग या एक्सपोजिंग द बॉडी पार्ट्स जरूरी है क्लाइंट के लिए. तो देयर इज नो सच रूल. द rule of hydrotherapy doesn't say that you should expose a part completely, or you need to wear a bathing suit. What you can do is you can have a trouser and a t-shirt to get into the water. It will help you both to be comfortable into the pool. So there's no such type of thought into it at all. तो इसलिए ये बिल्कुल ना सोचें, हाइड्रोथेरेपी एक्सेप्ट करना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. When I was in a neurological center working as a hydrotherapist, हम ज्यादातर मेल फिजिकल थेरेपिस्ट थे जो कि एक्वाटिक थेरेपी में एंटर होते थे. But there are there are very few females which take the patient in. But अब हम भी मेल फिजिकल थेरेपिस्ट को ज्यादा, मेल पेशेंट्स को ज्यादा प्रेफर करते हैं लेना. तो व्हाट हैपेंस टू द फीमेल पेशेंट्स, जबकि स्टैट्स कहती है कि फीमेल पेशेंट ज्यादा आती हैं आपके पास. तो हाइड्रोथेरेपी के लिए फीमेल पेशेंट्स को, माय टेक अवे मैसेजेस, फीमेल पेशेंट्स के लिए फीमेल थेरेपिस्ट शुड बी रेडी फॉर द पूल in their proper manner. So there is no harm to get into it. Okay, let me finish it up. Or Dr. Vinod, we can take the question and answers now, and over to you. Thank you. Dr. Dilip, Dr. Vinod, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for such a wonderful and informative session. And I would like to request to all the participants, and I would like to request all the participants to ask the questions, and our panelists will try to answer the questions which are already asked one by one.
Okay, there's a question. When an aquatic therapy is advised in acute conditions or as a condition is being progressed, in both, see, the role of aquatic therapy changes. In acute conditions, it can be used in acute conditions to reduce the spasm, the spasticity, the hyperactivity, or in progressing conditions where you need to train the patient in gait training, to need the patient to train in hydrotherapy. The thing is, the prescribing goal changes. आपका गोल क्या है वो बताएगा कि आप इसे किस वक्त इस्तेमाल करें. ठीक है जी? I suppose it answers your question. Any other questions?
There was one that Bobath, is it applicable for all types of CP? So as I said that it is not just applicable for CP, all kinds of CP, they are applicable, but also in all neurological conditions. So I hope this also answers the question.
कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है?
Okay, here.
Sir, there is a question by the Ganya Shah in the chat box.
Okay, there is no such prerequisite to measure the motor functions. You can take a very low motor function patient to a very high trained client into the hydrotherapy. Again, I would say it depends on the type of goal you want to achieve. Like in severe spastic patients or in severe athetoid patients, cerebral palsy patients, you can take that patient in also. You can take a very low motor function patient also. Doing what? Just to achieve the goal what you have made. For instance, there is no such motor function, but there is a lot of spasticity, a flexion pattern, a lot of flexion pattern involved into it, and you want the patient to get into the extension pattern. So the goal is कि आप उस पैटर्न से उसको बाहर निकाल सकें. तो उस पैटर्न से बाहर निकालने के लिए आप हाइड्रोथेरेपी इस्तेमाल कर सकते हैं. मोटर फंक्शन असेस करके जो है वो हाइड्रोथेरेपी में ले जाना is not a prerequisite. Any other questions?
No, sir. I don't think so. Okay. I hope the session.
There's another question, I suppose. How environment plays an important role in cerebral palsy rehabilitation? Dr. Nazia would like to answer it.
Environment plays a very important role. See, in our society, we don't have ramps and all these things. So, that hinders a child with cerebral palsy in their participation in the society. So, environmentally, I would say that we should make the environment very friendly. Ramps should be there, elevators should be there, so that they can also participate in whatever way they can with us. So this is one aspect. I went to US, I saw that priority is given for the geriatric and for the special needs population first. First they make them enter and then the other people proceed. So this is what we should look forward to. Environment is very important.
Okay, hydrophobic patients. Somebody asked hydrophobic patients का क्या करें? So you're absolutely right. You've answered it in your question that you need to educate the patient first. Hydrotherapy कोई ऐसी चीज नहीं है जो किसी ट्रीटमेंट का मस्ट पार्ट है और आपको लाजमी कराना ही कराना है और उसके बगैर आपका पेशेंट ट्रीट नहीं होगा, ऐसा नहीं है. The hydrotherapy is a tool, is another tool. दूसरे बहुत सारे टूल्स मौजूद हैं. अगर पेशेंट हाइड्रोफोबिक है और आपको लगता है कि वो पानी में जाकर कंट्रोल नहीं हो पाएगा तो प्लीज डोंट टेक द पेशेंट. और अगर आप समझते हैं कि आपको एजुकेट करने के बाद आप उसे एजुकेट करने के बाद ले जा सकते हैं, नूडल पहनाकर, उसको कॉलर पहना के, उसको रोडल पहनाकर पूरी प्रिकॉशन का ले जा सकते हैं और कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, तो जरूर ले जाइए. लेकिन अगर आपकी अपनी असेसमेंट कहती है कि उसका फोबिया जो है वो उसको ओवरकम कर लेगा तो उसको ना लेकर जाएं. ऐसी कोई मेथडोलॉजी नहीं है, ऐसा कोई मेथड नहीं है कि हाइड्रोथेरेपी के बगैर कंट्रोल ना किया जा सके. हाँ बिल्कुल, फिट्स के साथ भी हम हाइड्रोथेरेपी जो है ना वो बिल्कुल प्रेफर करते हैं. लेकिन जैसा मैंने कहा कि उसका आपको जो है ना एक साइकिल, एक पैटर्न मालूम करना पड़ेगा कि सीजर्स का इनिशिएटिव क्या होता है. हर पेशेंट का सीजर इनिशिएटिव अलग अलग होता है. जरूरी नहीं है कि एक ही किस्म के स्टिमुलस से जो वो पेशेंट को सीजर आता हो, लेकिन ये भी हो सकता है प्रॉबेबली टेम्परेचर उसके सीजर्स को इंक्रीज कर देता हो. तो यू हैव टू जज बाय योरसेल्फ. आप सीजर के पेशेंट को राइट आफ्टर द सीजर नहीं लेकर जाएंगे. लेकिन अगर आपको पता है जी स्टेबल है, कभी रेयरली इसको आता है सीजर या ट्वाइस अ मंथ आ जाता है और अभी पिछले हफ्ते एक हुआ है इसको, तो यू कैन टेक द पेशेंट विद प्रिकॉशंस. ऐसा नहीं है कि आप नहीं ले जा सकते. हाउ वी मेंटेन टेम्परेचर. अच्छा जी, हाइड्रोथेरेपी के जो पूल्स होते हैं ना, उनके अंदर वर्लपूल सिस्टम होता है, उनके अंदर टेम्परेचर रेगुलेशन सिस्टम होता है और उस टेम्परेचर को कम ज्यादा नहीं करना होता. वो टेम्परेचर, एक मेंटेन टेम्परेचर पे पानी जो है वो रोटेट होता रहता है अपनी एक खास फंक्शनिंग के थ्रू और उस टेम्परेचर को मेंटेन रखता है. टेम्परेचर का ज्यादा और कम होना पेशेंट की कंडीशन को खराब कर सकता है, तो इसलिए उसमें टेम्परेचर रेगुलेशन होती है पूल्स में. अच्छा जी, एनीथिंग एल्स? ये भी डिपेंड करता है कि कितने सेशन देने चाहिए. आई वुड एडवाइज 2 to 3 सेशंस अ वीक. अगर पेशेंट को ज्यादा नीड है तो 2 to 3 सेशन, अदरवाइज 2 सेशंस आर इनफ. Okay, why do we always suggest OTs to CP cases and not to normal physiotherapists? This is something which is a myth.
Yes.
I would tell you, जब आप NDT की बात करते हैं ना, तो there is no physiotherapist, there is no occupational therapist, then there is only an NDT therapist. अब वो NDT therapist में occupational therapist और physical therapist equal होते हैं. उन दोनों के काम, उनकी एक्टिविटीज एक जैसी होती है.
एंड इधर मैं ऐड करूंगी कि CP is mostly a motor impairment and physiotherapy has more to do with motor impairment. So I think the milestones or gross motor functions बच्चा पहले अचीव कर रहा होता है, तो फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट तो राइट अवे उसकी एंट्री होनी चाहिए. बिल्कुल. So this is wrong that OTs कि हम सजेशन देते हैं और फिजियोथेरेपिस्ट की नहीं होती. तो दे वर्क साइड बाय साइड. इट्स नॉट दैट कि OT रिक्वायरमेंट नहीं है, दे वर्क साइड बाय साइड. इन सम केसेस पहले PT आ जाता है, फिर OT आता है, एंड इन सम केसेस पहले OT होती है. डिपेंड्स अपॉन द नीड. कोई भी एक दूसरे से बढ़ के या कम नहीं है, सबका अपना इक्वल कंट्रीब्यूशन है और जो बच्चे की नीड है उस हिसाब से आपकी मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी टीम में एंट्री और एग्जिट होती है.
अच्छा जी, एक क्वेश्चन और है कि जी क्या शियाटिका को हाइड्रोथेरेपी से ट्रीट किया जा सकता है? अच्छा, शियाटिका को तो किसी भी चीज से ट्रीट नहीं किया जा सकता. मसला ये है कि शियाटिका इज नॉट अ डायग्नोसिस. ठीक है, शियाटिका एक सिम्टम है जो कई रीजंस की वजह से हो सकता है. शियाटिका के सिम्टम सिर्फ प्रिफॉर्मिस सिंड्रोम की वजह से भी आ सकते हैं जी, ओबेसिटी के कंप्रेशन इफेक्ट्स की वजह से भी आ सकता है, PIBD की वजह से भी आ सकता है और कई और दूसरे सिम्टम्स भी होते हैं. स्टेनोसिस की वजह से भी शियाटिका एज अ सिम्टम अपीयर हो सकता है. तो अब फिर अगेन बात वही आ जाती है, गोल क्या है? अगर गोल है कि वेटलेस करना है, थोड़ी सी डिस्ट्रैक्शन प्रोड्यूस करनी है इन दी वर्टिब्रास और उससे सिम्टम इंप्रूव हो जाता है, तो यस यू कैन डू इट. लेकिन वो ट्रीटमेंट नहीं है। ट्रीटमेंट क्या है, उसकी मैनेजमेंट क्या है? मैनेजमेंट इज टू एलिविएट द कॉज ऑफ sciatica. So it does help in the symptom, but not the condition itself.
Okay, what considerations we should keep in mind while giving NDT in CP? अब जैसे मैंने कहा, NDT is not a set of exercise, it is the idea, it is the concept. और जो आपने principles देखे होंगे, उसमें कोई भी principle ऐसा नहीं है कि जो है वो किसी भी तरह से बच्चे के लिए या किसी के लिए भी risky हो। So consideration सिर्फ ये हो सकती हैं कि आप जो है वो एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन ले बच्चों की, आप एक्टिविटी इस तरह की डिजाइन करें कि जिसमें बच्चे की आपको मेंटल एज, जैसे मैंने कहा क्रोनोलॉजिकल से ज्यादा मेंटल एज आपको देखनी होती है। आप एक्टिविटी ऐसे डिजाइन करते हैं और उसमें बच्चे की एक्टिव पार्टिसिपेशन देते हैं, ठीक है? तो इट्स नॉट द सेट ऑफ एक्सरसाइजेस के आपको कोई कंसीडरेशंस हों।
Okay, can we use hydrotherapy in arthritis? Definitely, yes, we can do it because it produces weightlessness. तो जो एक्टिविटी आप ऑन ग्राउंड बिकॉज ऑफ वेट ऑन द जॉइंट्स नहीं कर सकते थे, वो सारी चीजें आप जो है वो विद इन हाइड्रोथेरेपी करवा सकते हैं। डिस्ट्रैक्शन होगी, टेम्परेचर हेल्प करेगा सर्कुलेशन में, तो डेफिनेटली एडिमा कम हो जाएगा, स्वेलिंग कम हो जाएगी, तो इट हेल्प्स अ लॉट इन आर्थराइटिस। देन आप उसको गेट ट्रेनिंग करवा सकते हैं, आप उसको वो एक्टिविटीज करवा सकते हैं सारी पानी में। आप ट्रेडमिल रख के, जैसे मैंने बताया, पानी में ट्रेडमिल रख लें और उसको ट्रेनिंग करवाइए पानी में। जोड़ों पे जोर नहीं पड़ेगा, जॉइंट्स पे जोर नहीं पड़ेगा, आर्थराइटिक इफेक्ट्स कम हो जाएंगे, पेन कम हो जाएगा, तो इट हेल्प्स। Okay, does hydrotherapy have any side effects? Not really. अगर properly यूज किया जाए तो हाइड्रोथेरेपी के कोई साइड इफेक्ट्स नहीं है until and unless आपने कोई गलती करी है, या तो आपने जो है वो उसका केमिकल बैलेंस खराब कर दिया हो, बहुत ज्यादा क्लोरीन डाल दी, तो डेफिनेटली वो खराब हो जाएगा। हाँ, ये बात मैं शायद डिस्कस करना भूल गया कि whenever you take the patient in hydrotherapy, आपको पहले उसका क्लोरीन और केमिकल लेवल चेक करना होता है। आपके पास एक डिवाइस होती है, एक टेस्टिंग डिवाइस होती है, जिसमें आप ड्रॉपर से पूल का पानी लेकर उसमें टेस्ट करते हैं, और अगर उसका कलर जो है वो ब्लू आ जाता है, दैट मींस द वाटर इज गुड टू गो फॉर हाइड्रोथेरेपी। अगर उसका वाटर ब्लू, अगर उसका कलर ब्लू नहीं आता, दैट मींस देयर इज सम केमिकल डिफेक्ट और वो हार्म पहुंचा सकता है। तो इसलिए अगर आपकी गलती नहीं है, आपने प्रिकॉशंस पूरी ली है, तो हाइड्रोथेरेपी डजंट हैव एनी सॉर्ट ऑफ एडवर्स इफेक्ट्स। Okay, I suppose there are no more questions. Are there? There is another one. Sir, what about hypotonic patients? How we improve it? Okay, hypotonic को treat करने के लिए हाइड्रोथेरेपी के अलावा बहुत सारी चीजें मौजूद हैं, लेकिन in case you wanted to use it for hypotonia में मैंने अभी, अगर आपको याद है तो एक अभी दिखाई थी वीडियो जिसमें फ्लेक्शन और एक्सटेंशन एक्सरसाइजेस करवाई जा रही थी, जिसमें नी टू चेस्ट एक्सरसाइजेस विद इन द वाटर करवाई जा रही थी, जिसमें एक्सटेंशन की पुशिंग एक्सरसाइजेस करवाई जा रही थी एज रेजिस्टेंस। दे हेल्प इन हाइपोटोनिया, दे इंक्रीज द टोन बाय एक्सरसाइज। ओके, एनीथिंग एल्स? Hypotonic patients, how we can improve? Okay, I suppose there are no more questions, so we can wind it up. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you Leeds Academia, CMT. Thank you all the members to being here. Thank you Vinod for being so cooperative and organizing. Thank you Dilip. Dr. Asif Saab, अगर सुन रहे हैं, मुझे नजर नहीं आ रहा है if he's here or not. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being the chief guest.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of the panelists, and we also excuse that our third instructor couldn't join us, and Dr. Asif, that was initially joined, but due to some meeting, he couldn't join us later. We also appreciate and thanks again to all the panelists and respected our chief guest, Dr. Mohammad Asif. And one more thing, I would like to request all the participants that due to an error, any participant who couldn't join us due to some error, the session will be uploaded on the our YouTube channels, the Leeds Academy and the CMT Center of Manual Therapy YouTube channel, respectively.